Thank you everyone for joining us today for this is our fourth OneTomorrow presentation, I believe. So today we're doing, it's a Vietnam-based Blue Dragon. So the session will be the same format as last time, it'll be 30 to 40 minutes, and we'll have we'll have a brief Q&A session at the end. You can send a question at any time if anything sparks your mind at any time through the chat, and I'll pick them up at the end of the session. So I'd like to introduce Michael. He's quite large on my screen, possibly is on yours as well.
Hello.
The founder of founder and CEO of Blue Dragon Children's Fund. Michael holds the very esteemed honour of a member of the Order of Australia, and is also a CNN hero, a hero on the CNN. A lot of you might recall that Michael did actually come and talk to us in August 2019, one of our first speakers to kick off the OneTomorrow Foundation, and we had a fantastic turnout in the office with a huge amount of interest of people. It was a very moving, it's a very emotional story, and the Blue Dragon cause. Blue Dragon is a cause. It's in both our workplace giving and our guest giving causes. So if you're in the sales team or in the customer service centre, it's relevant for both your workplace and for our travellers. What we're showing to our travellers as well. So it's very, very relevant, and it's also one of our most strongly followed causes, possibly due to what. Due to what Michael said and how it resonates with people, and it is a great cause. So a little bit of background on Michael, if I may. Michael, he's a Sydney boy, grew up in and studied in New South Wales, in rural New South Wales. He's got an arts and education degree at the University of New South Wales, where he worked as an English and an ESL teacher for about 4 years before returning to the Uni of New South Wales to work in the gifted education area while studying his Masters of Education. In 2002, Michael moved to Vietnam and established the Blue Dragon Children's Foundation, after he identified the overwhelming needs of street children. And with no experience or no funding, it was a very tough and rocky start. But with the help of local people, it soon took on its own life and got going, and now it's very well respected and very well followed. The Blue Dragon serves the needs of over 1,500 highly disadvantaged children, including children and youth who have been trafficked, street children, children with disabilities, and many of the Blue Dragon children are in conflict with the law. So Michael's role today is as the leader in the fulfilment of the organisation's purpose and the vision of creating a better world. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Michael to tell us a bit more about Blue Dragon in a bit more detail, and maybe you might go into a little bit more detail about how it started, Michael, back in 2002, some of those first rocky days.
Yeah, good on you, Rob. Thanks for that intro. Actually, you mentioned no experience and no funding. If I could add to that, no idea what I was getting myself in for. I think if I had known, there's no way I would have gone this far. So I'm speaking to everyone today from Hanoi. Thanks very much for joining in. I know everyone's got lives to lead and things to do, so it's really, really kind of you to join in. Look, I moved to Vietnam in 2002. I didn't have a plan. I didn't come here to start Blue Dragon. As Rob said, I'd been a school teacher, and I wasn't a particularly good one. I loved it. I really enjoyed the challenge of teaching kids. I was an ESL teacher, but it wasn't the career for me, and I worked that out very quickly. But I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and I came to Vietnam on holiday. It was the first trip that I'd ever had out of Australia, and I was just instantly hooked. And I'm guessing that each of you working in the travel industry will have an experience like that somewhere in your history, where you've traveled somewhere, maybe it was your first trip or one special trip, and it just touches you. You just can't get it out of your system. And that's what happened to me. I was traveling through the south of Vietnam, and that was back in 1998, 99. And I was just touched by the spirit of the people here. It's a country where there's always something happening. You know, there's never a moment of peace because there's always movement. There's always something to see and do, and that really hooked me. Coming from, you know, country New South Wales, where I'd grown up with 150 kids in my whole school, and now everywhere you looked there was 1,000 people. So so I came back to live here, and I very quickly fell back into teaching. I ended up in one of the universities, teaching English to master's level students, and you know, just as in Australia, I got bored of that pretty quickly as well. But what was really interesting to me was every time I was out on the street, you know, walking home, there'd be kids there, shining shoes or selling something, and they were really engaging young people. They, in a way, I felt sorry for them, but they weren't pitiful creatures. They were, you know, they were working. They were trying to make a living. And as I got to know them, you know, you couldn't help but get to know them. Um, as I got to know a few of them individually, I learned they were sending money home to their family back in the countryside, and it really struck me that was something really special. So I did the one thing that I knew how to do, which was teach English. I started up a class for the kids, and some of my students from the university got involved. They were young men and women in their sort of mid-20s, as I was. And Blue Dragon just grew out of that. It just snowballed. Um, just good intentions, um, thinking, well, you know, what can we do to help these kids? Um, Started off in English classes, and then someone would come along and say, well, hey, I'm an art teacher. And the next thing we had an art class, and someone was a yoga teacher. And finally, the classroom that we had was too small. So somebody said, why don't we take it to the football field? And we rented a field and started playing a weekly game of soccer for street kids. And we still have that game going now. All these years later, we've played like 3,000 games or something with the kids. So it really started from those very, very humble and uncertain beginnings. That's our origin story, Rob.
Terrific. And I didn't mention to everyone that you're not in rural New South Wales at the moment. You are actually coming to us from Vietnam as well.
Yeah.
You are actually in location on the job.
Yes, I am. Summer here right now too.
So we should ask about that, actually, what life is like in Vietnam. But before we do, let's stick with the charity and the cause. And what do you see the key issues are? What are the key issues that that you're there and you're trying to address?
Well, we started out helping street children, and they're all country kids who've come to the city. The difference today is that generally they're coming to escape some kind of violence or problem at home. So most of the kids we meet have left home because of some kind of family breakdown. And sometimes it's really easy to address, and sometimes we're looking at years of work for kids to heal. So we have staff who go out at night time onto the streets of Hanoi. They go around the parks and the bridges looking for homeless kids. We've got a drop-in centre where the kids can come during the day, and we serve lunch. We've got classrooms there, and we've got shelters where the kids can live. We try to get the kids home when we meet them, and in fact I keep a blog which I normally update every week. I'll type into the chat the address of that. A little bit of shameless self-promotion. It's life is, now I'm multitasking, now it all falls apart, sorry Rob. Life is a long story .com. And my last story on there last week was exactly about that, about a boy who had run away from home because of problems there, exacerbated by COVID. And you know, our staff took him home, hoping that we could reunite this family, get them back together, but it's not going to happen, at least not yet. So, you know, for now he'll live with us in one of our shelters, while we try to heal that rift with his family. So that's sort of half of our work here in Vietnam. working with those street kids.
So a lot of the kids, you find them or they find you?
Mostly we find them, but we also get a lot of community referrals. So, the ladies selling tea out on the street at night, sometimes the police, if they see a homeless child, they'll also give us a call. And a lot of people living here in Hanoi, both Vietnamese and foreigners, they'll contact us, through Facebook, for example, if they see a child, and we'll send people out straight away to have a look. So we try to be really responsive. We know that if we don't get to the kids really, really early, then somebody else will. And that could be, a pimp looking to abuse the children. That happens quite a lot here. It could be a gang wanting to recruit new members, or it could be other police who are, cleaning up the city streets and will send the kids off to detention. So we try to get out to the kids really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And
How many, you said you shelter quite a lot of kids. How long does someone normally stay with you? And I'm sure that's how long's a piece of string, but just give us some sort of guidance. What's short and what's long, and how many people do you have with you on any given night?
Well, we have 4 shelters that we run. 2 are for girls, and the girls are mostly victims of human trafficking. That's the other half of our work. And then 2 of the shelters are for boys who are generally street kids. One of those homes is set up as a short-term stay. So we hope, and when things go really well, which sometimes they do, we might meet a kid one day, and then the next day we'd be able to take him home to mum and dad, or mum and dad might come into the city to pick him up. That's if it's been just a small, little argument at home, or sometimes we've met kids who've run away because they got a bad mark at school and they were afraid mum was going to give them a smack. So, it's just been a matter of counselling mum about dad and helping the child done. Other kids will be with us for 10 years. We've actually had kids with us for 10 years. And when that happens, that doesn't necessarily mean we support absolutely everything for 10 years. As they get older, once they turn 16, 17, we'll be encouraging them to get a part-time job and to contribute. And just like, a lot of parents would, and I'm sure some of you would have that, in your family, you're encouraging independence as the child grows, but they still need a home and a place to stay.
I'm trying to get my run away. They won't.
If they do, Blue Dragon will be in there to help, Rob.
They're all here. I've got one on a drum lesson now. So tell us about Hanoi and what does coronavirus look like? What's the face of it in Hanoi? And we know what it's like in Melbourne. It's pretty horrid. The streets are quiet. The shops are empty. The shops are closed. It's boarded up. The streets are ghostly. We've got a curfew of the night. We can't go outside after 8 p.m. We'll be locked up and thrown in jail. Well, I assume. I'm not sure what happens. And the shops are all closed after that time. What's it like in Hanoi?
We went through that. We had a lockdown going back to, and I've got to stretch my memory a bit. It seems this has been such a long year. I guess it was April that we had a lockdown, and so Vietnam really got onto it very, very quickly, and then gradually reopened. Now we got on top of that first wave of coronavirus, and very unexpectedly we had a second wave that started back in June, and that took off in Da Nang and Hoi An, which some of you would know because they're the tourist capitals of the country. And of course there were something like 80,000 tourists, domestic tourists, in the city of Da Nang at that time. And so those areas went into a total lockdown, no flights in or out, no buses in or out, everyone staying at home, and mass testing of everyone. And then there were other little pockets of coronavirus that have popped up. And so the government's kind of quick to lock them down. So mostly we're free. You know, if I go outside now, I've got to wear a mask. That's fine. And I think the only type of business that's forced to close right now are karaoke bars, which is fine by me. Um, but a lot of other businesses have closed anyway. Hotels, um, every kind of business especially that feeds into the tourist trade.
So is
Restaurants and
sickness rampant there?
sickness.
Yeah, is the virus is not highly prevalent then, is what I'm hearing.
No, no. Um, the country's got the virus itself really well under control, which is remarkable given that we have a border with China. But
Mm,
it's the impact of the lockdown and the international scene that has hurt. It's quite incredible to see shop after shop in the main business area closed with a for rent sign out the front. So that's a lot of people unemployed, and that's driving a lot of children to the streets at the moment, and also causing a lot of trafficking of people, because young people are desperate for an income. Their whole family might rely on them. It's not just one person here;
yeah,
it's the whole family, and so people are willing to take risks. So that's that really impacts Blue Dragon's work.
yeah, yeah. And I know you've got a few images to show us as well, which obviously you might want to do at your discretion. But uh, and you want to just tell us a little bit more about your work again, and some of the people you meet, and the where they live, and how you save them, and how we can help. What is it that we can do in our organisation?
Sure, sure. Look, I will bring up a few pictures. I'm not particularly tech savvy, so hopefully I don't crash the whole system here. But um, just a couple of shots here of the sort of trafficking situations that we deal with. Uh, we come across young people who've been trafficked within Vietnam, sometimes to sweatshops, sometimes into the sex industry, and we deal a lot with the trafficking of girls and women into China, where they're sold either to brothels or as brides. Now that's grown over the years. That arm of our work. We receive calls for help, mostly through families or through the police, where there's a young woman, usually in China, but sometimes in Vietnam, in a situation where she's been tricked, thinking she was going off for a job or going on a holiday with a boyfriend, perhaps, and she's instead been sold. So our work is to get in there, um, get them home, and very often these young people are from very very poor families, which is why they were vulnerable in the first place. Usually in the countryside, and get them back to their family. So this photo that you're looking at here, this was just last week. Um, uh, this young woman, she was 15 when she was trafficked, and that was 3 years ago. So she just disappeared one day. She thought she was going somewhere to get a job, and she was sold as a bride in China. Was While she was there, she fell pregnant and gave birth to this little child, little girl, and we rescued them about 6 weeks ago. We can't get people straight home at the moment because of coronavirus. There's a mandatory quarantine. So when we bring people back from China, we've got to take them to these quarantine centres first, for at least a couple of weeks. But that you can see from what I'm saying that our work, it goes from that meeting someone in a real crisis situation, sleeping rough on the street, or in a brothel in another country, and then it extends right through to getting them home, and even once they're home, we'll continue to support them, if they need help, and very often they do. It could be help to get back to school or to get a job. Uh, Sometimes we've rescued young women, for example, who were in university at the time they were trafficked, and they want to go back to university. So we facilitate that. So with the sort of giving that we're seeing from, from the staff there of APT and from the OneTomorrow Foundation, that that money is going into education initiatives and caring for people over time. Um, the rescue work obviously attracts a lot of attention, and Blue Dragon is quite famous for that work. But the rescue is one day, and the care of these young women and the boys as well, who we meet as street kids, we're talking years. So we're always in need of funding for that ongoing care. And the staff giving that is going on has just been phenomenal, as well as the fundraising that you've been doing. Um, you know, this family, they're one of the beneficiaries that receives help because of you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a very real story, but that's so foreign, so foreign to us here in Melbourne or elsewhere in Australia. It's so foreign to us and our culture, and that it was this all of a sudden that your daughter or son or the person next door might suddenly just not be there anymore. They've been taken and misled. It's horrific. Is there any hope to change the cycle and actually break the cycle?
Yeah. We're absolutely committed to that. I'd love to be sitting here telling you we've finished.
Yeah,
We used to do a lot of work rescuing girls and boys from ethnic minority areas who were trafficked into garment factories in Ho Chi Minh City. It was an extensive problem,
yeah,
and it doesn't exist anymore. We stopped it. And we did that by continually intervening in the trade, by finding these factories and raiding them with police, getting people out, getting the factories shut down, and then looking after those kids, educating the villagers, working with schools, and all of that worked. So that inspires us to think, if
yeah.
we can stop that one instance, why can't we stop all of the instances? It's a big vision, but we are working on it piece by piece. There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. One of the pieces, and just before everyone came on the call, I was chatting with Craig and Madeline and Rob about tomorrow. We've got a forum outside of Hanoi, out in the countryside, with a group of police and members of the judiciary, talking about some law reform work. So, as well as all of this grassroots work that we're doing, getting out there helping, individual girls and boys and mums and dads, we then feed that into the system. We share our knowledge, we share what we learn with the police and with the government, so that laws can be made stronger.
Mm,
Now, the law we're working on right at the moment is regulates how the police work with children who are either victims of crime or or have committed a crime or have witnessed a crime. So at the moment, there are kind of no clear guidelines on that, on how the police should take statements, on how they should work with children through the whole investigation process. And by the end of this year, there'll be guidelines on that. So that's just plugging another one of the little gaps in the law.
when you say we, how many people constitute we are working on this, Michael? How many people are Blue Dragon?
Well, look, across the organisation, we've got our 4 shelters and our drop-in centre. We've got staff present in 3 provinces outside of Hanoi. So all up, we've got 100 people. But everyone's in their different area. And on the legal team, we've got about 5 people working on these law reform projects. And we've got a few more of these reform projects coming up in the pipeline as well, including a whole revision of the anti-trafficking law, which is due to start early next year. And it looks like we're going to be a part of that process.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you can sort of imagine a funnel where from day to day we've got staff out on the front line, out on the streets, climbing around you know, garbage pits where kids might be living or going up in the mountains. And then that information is funneled down until we're sitting in a room with police saying, well, here's how the law doesn't work. What are we going to do about it? And they're really open to that.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. And I think that's what, there's two parts of the problem, isn't there? There's the immediate problem of the person who has been abducted and is living in China against their will. And then the other part is, well, how do I stop it happening again? How do I stop it for their children and the like?
That's exactly.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
You had a great slide you showed us earlier, also about where some of the people lived. I think that'd be great to show everybody, because it's just a little bit different to what we're used to in Australia. So this is not a bungee jump, am I right?
Not a bungee jump, no. For anyone who's been here to Hanoi, you might know the Long Bien Bridge. Very famous bridge. It's very old and dilapidated. It's the rail bridge going across the Red River, built by Eiffel, or by his company back in the 1800s. So, you know, it's an iconic landmark of the city. But underneath the bridge, you've got groups of kids and sometimes adults as well who live on the pillars of the bridge. Now that view there, so this was one of our social workers who took this picture, as he's sort of on the bridge climbing over the edge, and those kids are on the pillar about 8 meters above the river. Now to you and I, that's a horrifically dangerous place for kids to be sleeping and eating. But the kids do that because for them there's something about it that's safe. You know, very few people are going to go looking for them there. You can be walking across that bridge, you'll walk right across the top and you won't know that they're there. No one really goes looking for them there, except for my staff. So it's a very sad existence that you pick something that's filthy and incredibly dangerous because that's the best thing that you can find.
Yeah, that's tough. That's really, really tough. If anyone's got any questions, shoot them through. We are just conscious of time, and I know Michael could share his experiences from his last 18 years to pack it into 30 minutes. He's probably not quite doing it justice, but I don't know if you have any other slides you want to show us just before we wrap up. And
look, I'm happy to take questions. I think I should actually show you that even though a lot of what I'm saying today is stories of real hardship, if you come and visit us at Blue Dragon, you don't see hardship. You know, you don't see kids sitting around feeling sorry for themselves. You see kids trying new things, studying. You know, this is a shot in our centre of kids learning a barista course that we run from time to time. You know, a lot of our kids are into dance and sports. It is an inspirational place. So even though a lot of the things that I've been talking about today are quite dark, don't fear that that's what Blue Dragon is about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of joy in our community.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So one question there, John Barnett asked, where did the name Blue Dragon come from, Michael?
Well, there's quite a bit of imagery in there. If you have a look at the map of Vietnam, it's vertical, but if you flip it horizontally, it's kind of like the shape of our dragon. And the blue is about that blue sky and the blue sea that we have in Australia, but that you don't see a whole lot of here in Vietnam. So there's the Vietnamese imagery, and dragons here are considered good luck. They're powerful creatures that will protect you, and that blue as a call out to the beautiful freedom that we have in Australia. Most of the time when we're not in lockdown.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's unreal. So, more minutes. If you've got any other stories you'd like to tell us, or what? How can we help? Is there anything? What more can we do? And we raise. Well, I might tell you a little bit about the background of about OneTomorrow and what we do. So we've got two parts to our new cause that we started in August last year now, so just over one. We have got an internal fundraising area called Workplace Giving, which Katrina, who's on the call, heads up for us, and where the staff have the opportunity to give some money out of their pay before tax, and whatever they give, it comes out of their weekly garnish from their pay, and then whatever they give OneTomorrow will match that dollar for dollar, so it doubles their effectiveness, which is amazing, which is terrific, which is really powerful. And we've got about 16 causes, and the staff all chose the causes and elected for them, and the Blue Dragon is one of the bigger ones. And in the last 12 months, the staff, together with OneTomorrow, given a total of $7,500 for matching the donations dollar for dollar.
That's pretty powerful.
It's terrific. So through little things, big things grow, and that $7,500 you wouldn't have had otherwise. We wouldn't have had a raise otherwise without this cause and without the staff support. So
that goes a long way here in Vietnam, I can tell you. And you would know that from your own experience. But yeah, that really does show how it all adds up to something substantial. So look, that's just awesome. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's terrific. And she just stepped off the call, possibly she has a call at 5 o'clock. But Irina, she's back, is actually was one of the champions for this cause. It really resonated with her. And she raised on her own $450 through her watercolors that she painted and then sold to staff and family and friends, and raised $450, which OneTomorrow matched to make $900 as well, which is just
that's great,
awesome. It's really awesome.
One thing I'd really encourage you, whenever you've got anything like that going, send us some photos. Send us a bit of a story in case we can share that on our social media. If you're doing really cool stuff like that, let us amplify that.
Okay.
Because that's really encouraging and inspiring.
And
I know my team also really likes to know when people are doing things like that. So let us know.
Yeah. So the other one and the other part, so something we can share with you as well that just finished. So through actually, it was in July. In July, we had the idea of doing to help people who were all sedentary and locked up at home, where exercise is walking to the letterbox. We had a thing called Active August, and it was really good. It went really well. We said to people, well, if you do 30 minutes exercise a day, we'll give, what was it, $1? Was it $1? $1, yeah, for every 30 minutes of exercise you do per day. And anyway, long story short, we had about 220 people signed up to it. And there was teams. You could go in small teams or you go as individuals. So the individual winner was Glenn Hansen in Vancouver. And he did 4,350 minutes in through the month, which I think is over 2 hours a day on rough maths. So clearly he wasn't in lockdown like us poor Victorians who were clearly handicapped. And he ended up, his nominated charity was actually Blue Dragon. So because he was the winner of the individual, he got OneTomorrow gave an extra $500 to your cause as well. So that's awesome. Sort of a nice thing to see it go around, and it's really timely, really timely to have you come and talk to us today.
And I think that's a really positive way for your foundation to be engaging with your, is it 16 causes?
Yes.
And also encouraging your staff through these times like this. So that's a really good kind of all around approach. I really, really like that.
Yeah, it was really good. We haven't done it before. We didn't have a lot of lead time, but it really resonated with people, particularly being locked up, being like caged animals. But it really worked well. So I'm sure we'll probably do it again. But it's nice as we're gradually working out what we can do with OneTomorrow and how we can link our staff with the various causes. And we've got our guests giving what our travellers, when we start travelling again, how we can link our travellers with the causes, which is what we really want to do.
Yeah. Well, I'd really encourage everyone to, I've shared the blog address there. Hopefully I got it right. You can follow that, follow our Facebook, Twitter, and so on. We're always sharing stories. We're always trying to let the world know what's going on here and what impacts people are having. So I'd really encourage people, get on there and follow and reach out anytime, email or through the Blue Dragon Facebook. If I'm happy to connect like this or to have a chat through email anytime.
Yep. And you've got a marathon walk that you do as well. I think that's September, isn't it? You've been doing that for 10 years or so as a fundraiser that possibly we could get behind next year or do something with.
It's this Sunday actually. And normally it's been in Melbourne along the Merry Creek. This year, not going to happen. So we sort of just opened up and said, wherever you are in the world, walk a marathon or a half marathon, and we got people here in Vietnam. I'll be doing it. There are people in Europe. I think someone said there's someone in Sri Lanka doing it. There's a group in India. I don't even know who these people are. It's just offering people participate in this, join in this, and it's really interesting to see people take that up. To me, it shows that generally whether you're in a foundation or you're just going about your ordinary life, people want to help. People want to do good.
Well, I think it shows there's lots of people behind you. As I said, it's one of the biggest charities that we've got in our little group, and we're really proud of the support that the staff have given behind our causes, and that yours is one of the favourites, and it resonates, and I think it sort of shows why. Conscious of time, I need to wrap it up now, but I'd like to say just a special thank you to Michael for your time to give to us, and I think recognising the amazing, wonderful work that you do there on the front line is absolutely fantastic. I think we're really, really grateful of it, and we're glad we can do our little bit. Just making an executive decision, we'd like to give another $2,500 out of our kitty, if we can, to Blue Dragon as well, out of our OneTomorrow kitty, to get behind you and to say thank you very much for coming.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'm checking Craig's face just to see if he's.
Yeah, he went pale, didn't he? He went pale.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at Madeline's face.
The budget.
Surely I can make that call. Anyway, thank you for that was a team decision just made by one person there. But we'd love to say thank you very much for that. It's great. Special thank you to Craig as well for organising today and pulling it together, which is wonderful. And Irina, thank you for all your support as well for Blue Dragon in the past. It's just lovely. And to anyone who wants to be a guest giving champion, it's really great to be able to help and support these causes and provide more detailed support to each one of them. And there's a wide range of choice, such as the Royal Flying Doctor Services and the Cancer Council. There's a range of different causes that whatever resonates with you, but we love people who can help just G it up a bit and get that enthusiasm and support throughout our organisation so that we can do more and give more. So if you have some interest, send an email to the info at OneTomorrow email address, or to Craig or Madeline or myself or Katrina. Actually, Katrina first. Katrina or Madeline or Craig firstly. But please, we are looking for more people to help support the various causes and get more behind it. So thank you very much. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for the great work you do. Thank you to everyone. I wish everyone a great day.